a messy mind. Think I need to help you. I'm gonna try. Cute as hell, baby. Hotter than flames. Wanna burn together in a million ways. Now let me take the lead. Know you wanna play with me. Got secrets you might wanna see. You might wanna see. You might wanna. I know I'm not gonna regret this. Wanna get reckless, bring you to the test, yeah. I know I'm not gonna regret this. I wanna get reckless. I wanna get reckless. I wanna get reckless. I wanna get reckless. Couldn't keep your poker face. Stay with me. Got secrets you might wanna see. You might wanna see. You might wanna. Lock the doors, zip it off. Kiss my neck. When you want more, scream your name deep in the night. Work your way around my thighs, explore my hips, my kind of light. I scream your name, I shut it down, 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 down. I know I'm not gonna regret this. Wanna get reckless, put you to the test, yeah. I know I'm not gonna regret this. I wanna get reckless. I wanna get reckless. I want.
Welcome to the Gleen Network. We just got done watching Smackdown live, and now we're going to do our analysis of what just happened.
Yeah.
I am Mr. Gleen, and this is...
Maven.
So, we'll start off here talking about the very first thing that happened with Becky Lynch coming to the ring. The man, she came out and called out Asuka.
And then Asuka then came out and responded. And then after that we had Charlotte Flair come out, who essentially, what would you say she did? She
came out and told both of them she's going to win the Royal Rumble.
yeah. And that she is the main event and will be the main event for WrestleMania. And then after that, Asuka was tired of listening to Charlotte Flair and Becky kind of bicker back with one another, that she attacked the man from behind. Which then led into, after the break, we came back and they were backstage continuing the fighting that they had done in the ring.
Then we went to another break, and we came back, and we were seen with Naomi and Mandy Rose.
With Sonya Deville in her corner. After weeks of Mandy playing mind games with Naomi, they were finally given a match opportunity, in which Naomi went and attacked Mandy before the bell was hit, and then the match started, and Mandy Rose ended up winning by pinfall after Sonya Deville had interfered outside of the ring, which I thought was total trash and utter garbage. I don't know. I was not very happy with that at all.
Yeah, it was a match that, I don't know, it didn't really do anything for me.
Not really.
It was okay. But overall, it really wasn't something that, you know, I thought was really impressive.
No. And with us just starting to actually like sit down and watch the weekly shows again, this was a storyline that had been started in previous weeks. So we kind of walked in not knowing everything that went on, but they kind of showed a what would you call that? Previous scenes from when they had done that storyline. So we kind of got an idea of what happened, but again, it was okay. Then we went to Rey Mysterio backstage talking about respect and talking about the Royal Rumble and about his match later that night
against Andrade.
Uh-huh.
Then we went to another commercial.
Yeah.
Seems like there was a lot of commercials at the beginning of this. And came back, and we had The Miz and Shane McMahon getting ready to go to the ring as The Miz was going to be fighting Cesaro.
Then we went into that match after yet another commercial break.
Yes, another commercial.
So The Miz...
I had many opportunities to go use the restroom.
So The Miz and Cesaro had their match because upcoming this weekend at the Royal Rumble, Miz and Shane O'Mac and The Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus, they have a tag team match for the tag team championships. So they were doing a singles match tonight. So you want to kind of take over and talk about what happened in the match?
Well, The Miz took a cheap shot at Sheamus. Cesaro countered. And then Shane came face to face with Sheamus.
Like he was going to fight him outside the ring. And then the match was ended after Sheamus interfered and Cesaro got the pin. And then the fight continued outside of the ring after the match was over with Shane O'Mac attacking Sheamus. And then he went and attacked Cesaro. And then that led into a big mess. It was such a mess of bodies everywhere. So that was exciting to watch. They both ended up going through Miz and Shane O'Mac. They both ended up being put through the ring announcers tables, thrown one on top of the other. It was exciting.
They both got destroyed.
Pretty much. So I'm curious to see how this match at the Royal Rumble goes, with them both being in the ring, working with each other, instead of it just being a one-on-one type situation, even though I guess it really wasn't a one-on-one thing tonight because both partners from both teams got involved in some way in the match.
Well, one thing about it, I'm shocked that Shane McMahon keeps coming back because for the beatings he's taken and the physical abuse he's taken in every match he's been in.
Dude, do you remember, you probably don't remember this, but WrestleMania 32, I believe, Shane McMahon took a deathly fall off of a cell.
Then the Undertaker threw him through it or something?
No.
Wasn't there one that the Undertaker...
No. That was a match with the Undertaker, but he was going to elbow the Undertaker from the top of the cell.
Yeah, I remember that now.
And he jumped because he was on the table, but then he moved. The Undertaker moved, and he landed like smack first into the table. Oh, I was like, how is he not dead?
Yeah.
How is he not dead yet?
He, like I said, he just seems to take a beating.
A lot.
And so, it's shocked that he's come back to try and continue and wrestle, especially since I think to get his matches out there, it seems that he has to do the over the top type things.
Yeah. Because I feel like people almost wouldn't be interested if it wasn't.
Yeah. Because
he's not as great of a wrestler as like other people
Yeah.
in the brand, because that's like not what he does. He's like on the business end of things.
Now his matches are exciting just because of the fact that he does
Crazy
body
stunts, jumping off of cells, and this, that, and the other thing.
So then that leads us to
Samoa Joe.
the next match.
Samoa Joe and Mustafa Ali, they have a match later in the evening, which we will talk about in just a little bit. But there was a video from Mustafa Ali about him talking about the fact that he can and he will beat Samoa Joe. From what I gathered from that, they were supposed to have a match last week or a couple weeks ago, and like that didn't happen. And so then they were given another opportunity, and he talked all about that and how he's gonna beat him and this, that, and the other thing. So we'll talk about their match a little later. Then we went to Mr. McMahon backstage watching the carnage that was left from The Miz and Shane O'Mac's match. And he was just kind of standing there watching it on the monitor. We didn't hear him say anything until he came out to the ring to mediate the face-to-face confrontation of the new Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles. And he just kind of left it as, I'm not really going to say anything about this, with what happened with Shane. Yes, I'm disappointed, but, it's not why I'm out here. Which then leads us to the new Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles confrontation. Daniel Bryan refused to get in the ring after AJ Styles was in the ring.
Several times Vince McMahon told him to get in the ring.
And he did not.
And he refused. And then he started talking about how he's the Planet Champion and how Vince McMahon was all corporate and all about money and didn't care about the people or the planet, and that AJ Styles could be the people's champion, but it really didn't matter because Daniel Bryan was the planet's champion.
Mm-hmm.
And how he was going to look out for the planet. And so AJ Styles then said, well, if you don't want to, if we don't want to be in the ring, then we can always do this outside the ring. And AJ Styles got out of the ring.
Went after Daniel Bryan, chased him around the ring once, got a hold of him, threw him into the ring. Much of a heel. Like, I don't like him as a heel. I feel like he does better in those more babyface positions than being the bad guy. It's just not the Daniel Bryan that I'm used to seeing, and it will take time, I guess, to get used to it. And maybe I won't get used to it at all, and I just won't like him as this character. Time will tell going forward and watching and seeing what he does. What do you think about his new persona that he has taken on?
Well, I think the way they're dealing with him is they could do some pretty weird things with him. I think they could take him back to when he was with the Wyatt family and like do some sort of dark type thing.
Well, what they're doing right now is they're bringing like his personal views on things and in the world. I know yesterday watching Raw, they had like a little segment thing where they're talking about, Smackdown Live the next day, and they were talking about, his like veganism and things like that, and like they're bringing things that he like talks about in real life and like advocates for in real life to this, and it's making everybody else sound like they're terrible people for doing whatever. Which, I mean, I just don't really care for it. Like,
well, I think it's all part of the show, but
yeah,
I think it's something that he knows about, and I think so it's easy for him to get out there and talk about it, and
mm-hmm.
and makes it easier for everybody involved. So, I just think there's some other things, like directions that they could go with this character and what they're doing with him.
Yeah.
So then that leads us to R-Truth and Carmella in the back talking.
They were talking about with their mixed match tag team challenge that they were in. They were the winners of that. So they are the participants in both of their respective Royal Rumbles. They are participant number 30. And they were both talking about that and how, oh yeah, we're shoo-ins for winning because we're the last people. And, they were talking about which champions they're going to face, and R-Truth was like, well, you know, I either have the new Daniel Bryan or AJ Styles, or I have, who's the other champion? Not Brock Lesnar. Maybe it is Brock Lesnar. I don't know. But he was like talking about that, and Carmella was like, well, what about Brock Lesnar? You know, wouldn't you want to like go for the Universal Championship? And he was like, are you nuts? I'm not facing Brock Lesnar. I don't want to go to Sioux Falls City. And Carmella was like, it's Suplex City. And R-Truth, he was just like, I don't want to go there either. So no, I'm not gonna take on Brock Lesnar. Are you nuts? And well, I got a good kick out of that. I thought that was funny.
Well, then Carmella talks about like weight and things like that, and he looks at his stomach and goes, "Are you saying I'm getting fat?" And he kind of walks off. And then Carmella
she kept walking,
keeps walking, and sees Charlotte Flair,
and she talked to her about the Royal Rumble, and you know, she essentially just told her off like, you go out there and you think that you're going to be the last one standing. You've never even been in a Royal Rumble match before. Last year, you weren't in it because you had a championship that you were defending. So you don't know what it's like being in there tossing girl after girl over the ropes, or, you know, you might be in the ring and then you have 7 other girls going after you to push you out of the ring. So you don't know what it's like. So don't go in there thinking that you're going to win it. Take it from me, because I've been in the Royal Rumble before, and I'm number 30, so I have a great chance at winning, unlike you. And then Charlotte Flair kind of told her off again, and just went on with it, and, you know, was like, I may not have been in the Royal Rumble last year, but I am going to be the main event. I'm going to go to WrestleMania to take on whichever champion I choose, and I'm gonna win the title back. And so they essentially just told each other off about, you know, who's gonna win and who's not gonna win. So
yeah, I think that this particular character, the R-Truth character, I like what they're doing with him. At first, I wasn't a huge R-Truth fan.
No, I never was an R-Truth fan before
and
this.
The last couple times I've watched him, I think that, you know, they're using him pretty good, and he's doing a really good job with the character.
I really like what they did with them with being in the mixed match challenge. I like the R-Truth and Carmella thing. Like, I think they're like a good match because they both have those kind of qualities of like being like funny when they need to be funny, serious when they need to be serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like they're really good partners to kind of bounce off one another in their storylines and things.
Yeah, I think that the way they're using it is really good. So, we'll just see where they go with this particular group characters. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
Then we come to
the Samoa Joe and Mustafa Ali match. This one, it wasn't my favorite match of the evening, but it kind of led into some other things, which again we'll talk about in just a few minutes. But long story short, Samoa Joe, he ended up putting the sleeper hold on Mustafa Ali, causing him to tap out rather than face falling asleep. So, again, wasn't one of my favorite matches. I was kind of like, really? I would have rather just, like, taken it instead of tapping out like a wimp. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those things that I don't know where they're going with this, these particular characters.
And the thing is, like, with Mustafa Ali, I haven't seen him wrestle enough to know, like, his type of character, if he would be one to actually, like, tap out for different things or whatever, because he was in the 205 Live stuff and the Cruiserweight show and everything, and I didn't really watch much of that. I was watching more the mainstream things than, like, that, so I don't really know much about his character or much about the style that he wrestles in, but long story short, it just wasn't one of my favorite matches of the evening.
Yeah, it wasn't one of my favorites either. I think that they need to use Samoa Joe in a different way again. It just seems like Andrade is not like the type of
Andrade, you mean?
What'd I say?
You said Andrade. It's Mustafa Ali.
Sorry, Mustafa Ali. I don't. Either way, I don't think Samoa Joe should be wrestling either one of them right now. I think he should be wrestling
like some
of the bigger name wrestlers,
like
and
he
should be like in a main event type situation.
I was gonna say he recently, I guess it was a couple months ago, he had a big storyline with AJ Styles, and they did like a really good job with that storyline, and I really like thoroughly enjoyed that one. But with this storyline with Samoa Joe, it's not my favorite at all.
No.
Like, I definitely don't think. I understand you need to get those smaller, not so mainstream guys into the mix somehow, but this is another one of those things where I guess, like what we said yesterday with Heavy Machinery, we just kind of have to watch them because they're new.
Yeah.
To like the mainstream shows. So we just kind of have to see where they take them and what they do with them.
Yep. I think that, I don't know. Like, I think Samoa Joe just needs to work some other things out. Then we have the final match, Rey Mysterio against Andrade. Not
Mustafa Ali.
It was a 2 out of 3 falls match. And Zelina Vega was banned from ringside.
Because last week they had a match and she interfered, and so then that match was disqualification. So she was banned due to that fact. Then we went to another commercial break, and we came back with the New Day backstage, talking about the Royal Rumble. And if you have watched previous Royal Rumbles, they were talking about how Kofi Kingston always, every year, will get thrown out of the ring, but he finds some way to where his feet don't touch the ground, and he gets back in the ring and continues to being one of the final couple of people in the Royal Rumble. So they were talking about that, and the person that was interviewing them was asking, how are you going to do it this year, and what happens if you end up being the final 3? Are you guys going to throw each other out of the ring, or how are you going to do that? And their answer to that was, you guys ask us that every single year. We tell you the same thing every time. We are not going to end up throwing each other out. We will win as a team. So, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
We'll just have to kind of see what happens at the Royal Rumble, because you almost are like, really? No. That's not the way it's going to go down. You're going to be in the moment, and you're going to say, screw this, I'm throwing you over the top rope because I want that championship belt. So, I
don't know. I don't think it'll matter because I don't think they'll be the final 3. So
I don't think they will either. I have other picks for who is going to be top in the list.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later in the week.
Yep.
So then the match gets started with Rey Mysterio and Andrade. It's kind of a Rey Mysterio match. He's I don't like him as being kind of the main eventer, and I see the last match as being kind of the main event. And yeah. I think he's real athletic, and his matches are fun to watch. But growing up, I watched him wrestle, and I remember like Kevin Nash throwing him through the side of I believe it was a trailer that he threw him into the side of a trailer
in WCW.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that Rey Mysterio just doesn't do it for me as like a main eventer. But like I said, his matches are fun to watch just because he's super athletic. And
he does all the super cool like lucha libre tricks because that's what he does.
Yeah, which makes his matches somewhat exciting as far as the entertainment aspect goes. But
yeah.
For me, wrestling, you kind of look at you want the big headline guys to be your end the show type thing.
Yeah. I would have loved to see the Shane match and the Miz match and the Cesaro match being like the main event for tonight, because I feel like that was my favorite match out of all of them, because
and I think that with what happened, and we'll get into that, I think that tying in, let's talk about the match and then I'll get into where I think they could have went with.
So because it was a 2 out of 3 falls match, obviously you know how that works. You have to get 2 out of 3 falls. So the first fall was, I'm gonna butcher his name.
Andrade.
Andrade. I always say it wrong. I want to say it like on. I don't even know. Andrade. Powerbomb off the top rope, and so fall 1 was for him.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then Mysterio got fall 2 with a pin after he did a super cool like Lucha Libre trick. Then he got the pin. Then we keep going in the match. Andrade went for a pin after using his finisher on Mysterio. And then Mysterio ended up putting his foot on the ropes to break the count because he couldn't kick out. And then the match, oh, this is exciting. The match ended up
or not
ending in disqualification because Samoa Joe interfered. And you might be asking, what? Why? Why did he interfere? What does he have to do with any of this? He interfered and attacked both competitors, and then he went and took the microphone and was like, this is what I told you all. I told you I was going to come out here, and I'm going to be the last one standing, and no one is going to get in my way, and if you get in my way, this is what's going to happen to you. I'm going to kick the crap out of you. So, you're not, there's no one left. It's going to be me. I'm going to be the last one standing in the Royal Rumble, and I'm going to win. Because my name is Samoa Joe. And then Randy Orton came out of nowhere and RKO'd Samoa Joe. And he ended up being the last one in the ring. And I was like, what just happened? Like, what is any of this? Well, at first, Samoa Joe came out, and I was like, what? What does he have to do with any of this? Because he had a match with Mustafa Ali, and I was like, huh? And then after that, after he got on the mic and talked about what he was talking about, I was like, okay, I get it. It's for the Royal Rumble because he wants to be the last one standing. He said, I'm willing to take out any competitors that get in my way. Don't care who you are. Don't care where you've been. I'm taking you down, and I'm going to headline WrestleMania.
Well, the one thing I don't like about it is you look at the guys that he beat up today, it's probably 3 of the smaller guys in the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And so
they're going to be some of the twigs that are in the Royal Rumble because you're going to have big guys. I would rather have seen him, if they're going to use him in this manner and have him be, destroy everybody and everything else, like you were talking about how it should have had like The Miz and Shane McMahon as the main event instead of
at the end, and then have him come in and attack
them instead
at the end and leave them laying, and then have Randy Orton come in and take him out. Just to make the storyline go better, because like I said, I don't see Rey Mysterio or Andrade as being like your main eventer guys, and I think it would have just made the storylines a little better if they would have switched that up a little bit, and made it a little more exciting for the fans, and I think they would have gotten a bigger pop out of it than what they actually got.
Yeah, I don't think. This particular evening wasn't my favorite evening that I've watched. I much preferred yesterday's Raw than today's SmackDown, personally. Because the only thing that I really was like, yay, I'm super excited about this was the Becky Lynch thing, because I've been watching that, like, I've seen things on that through, like, the man thing after she got her face broken and everything. Like, I've watched that, so I'm really invested into that because that's one of the storylines I'm really into. And then the Shane O'Mac, Miz, Cesaro, Sheamus business, because that's leading into the Royal Rumble. And I'm curious to see where they take that with Shane and the Miz, because it's something new.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Just because of the way Shane McMahon wrestles, I don't see a lot going on with that. I don't see The Miz and Shane McMahon winning. And they might. But and if they do, I don't think they'll be champions very long. Just because of the way, like I said, the way Shane McMahon wrestles. He goes all out, and I think a lot of it is because he's not necessarily a great wrestler.
Yeah.
So to get big,
he has to bring hype around it, like do the fact like he's jumped off a 50 foot ring before.
Yeah, he has to do dangerous things.
And to get people interested
yes.
because they aren't going to care otherwise because he's like, what is there to see? He's not a great wrestler.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are like the only two things that I really like super loved from today's. And I guess the new Daniel Bryan and the AJ Styles thing, because I'm curious to see what happens at the Royal Rumble this weekend with that whole storyline. I'm very curious to see who keeps the championship and who doesn't. But yeah. So.
Overall, again, like yesterday with Raw, I wasn't like super impressed by what I saw or anything.
No.
There's some storylines I think they could make out of it to make people really get interested. There's some things they could do to make people get interested.
Yep.
And it goes, I mean, from the two that I've watched the last couple nights, I think that they need to start looking at some of their storylines to keep people interested, and they're always going to have people interested just because of it's like the women's division is like huge right now with people being interested in it and things like that. I feel like
out of everything, the women's division has gone farther in the last like couple years than like the men's has. Well, just because they've brought up so many people from when they started the Divas Revolution back a couple years ago, and then they've continued bringing in new people, you know, and not just keeping it, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair. They haven't just kept the spotlight on them. They brought Asuka up. They had just brought up, like, Lacey Evans and Nikki Cross from NXT. You have them to worry about now and see what they do. So it's like they've advanced things, I feel, a lot more than...
Well, I think that the women's division is still kind of a newer thing. Mm-hmm. And so people are interested in that. If their storylines go stagnant and they don't do it right, I think that you'll see people kind of start to lose interest. And not that wrestling's ever going to lose interest, just because I think that there's enough culture out there that wants to see the wrestling and enough people. And now it's become worldwide. Mm-hmm. There's going to be enough people in it that want to see it. But I think to really help, like, people stay involved, they need to check some of their storylines and make interesting things happen. The Samoa Joe attacking Rey Mysterio and Andrade, really, I didn't see that as being interesting.
It's gonna. But the thing is, it's not. That's one of those storylines that isn't going to continue past the Royal Rumble. Because it's just a statement that he was trying to make.
The thing is that's not going to continue on anyway, and every storyline is going to come to an end.
But a lot of storylines last more than,
They do, but you want to have a storyline that continues, that people sit here and go, wow, that was pretty cool, wow, that was amazing, and remember it.
They keep talking about it because it was such a good storyline. But, with the Samoa Joe thing, come next week or the week after, they're going to have some new storyline. I'm going to go, wait a minute, I don't even remember what happened. Last week with Samoa Joe when he starts talking about whatever he's going to talk about. And, because there's other bigger, better things that...
Well, and I think if they would have had him, attack some, all four of, we said, the Miz and Shane and Cesaro and Sheamus, I think that you would have seen a different result as far as getting a pop, and people would have been, wow, he just attacked four people and take out four people, and four of the bigger people in wrestling right now, bigger names, and I just think it would have got more pop out of that, and hopefully they change some of those things, and some of their storylines are changed a little bit, and you start to see some of those types of things happening, and like I said yesterday with the Raw, with Finn Balor, turning back into the Demon King.
There's so much more they could do something with him.
As far as, make people... I think people would be more interested in something like that, and especially with him going against Brock Lesnar, because Brock Lesnar is so much bigger than him. But I think you could do a dark side of Finn Balor and keep him as a baby face with the fans and make it more interesting than just kind of what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
So, just my opinion.
Yeah. I think going forward, after we get done with the Royal Rumble, because all the storylines that were around the Royal Rumble, I feel like the storylines are almost just, hopefully, they almost just get better because we're leading up to the Elimination Chamber, where we're going to have the Women's Tag Team Championship match, and then after that we have WrestleMania, and, like, it's really, we just have to wait for the Royal Rumble to, like, determine the fate of some of these things that have been piling up on one another, and then it's like you only move forward from there.
Yeah.
Because I'm real excited to see what happens with everything with Royal Rumble, and then I'm super excited for the Women's Tag Team Championship belts, because waiting a long time for that.
Again, like I said, that's the women's division. It's something new. People are interested in it and want to see it. And I think no matter what they do, people are going to be interested just because it's the women's division. But over time, if they don't keep their storylines fresh and keep them interesting, I think people will start to lose interest in that too, just because of the fact that, it starts to get old with the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
And so I think that if they don't do it right and don't keep things fresh and keep things interesting, keep people on their toes, then I don't think that you'll have the interest there.
It's like the prime example with Brock Lesnar, like, in his whole stuff. Because he's been the champion for so long, and, it's like...
Yeah, and that's why.
Because people have lost interest.
I mean...
Because they know that he's going to retain the championship every single time you see him in a match, because it's kind of a pattern and a cycle that has continued over the last, like, I don't even know how many years.
Well, when you only wrestle 6 times a year, it's like... It's tough for... I think that they could use him the right way, too, if he would, like, actually let them. But from what I hear, contracts and things like that, kind of puts him in that spot. But if I was at WWE, I'd say, hey, you know what, you want to be part of this, then you have to be part of it, and it's not just going to be a 6 matches a year thing.
I was going to say,
however many matches
I would much rather see him just up and leave the company than continue what he's doing right now, because what he's doing right now isn't interesting at all, and you always know that in the back of your head the Universal Championship is still with Brock Lesnar and not anybody else. So it's like, what's the point? Like,
yeah.
You know that he's going to retain it because
Yep.
he has, and so
Nothing
it's not worth watching if he's just going to keep it.
Well, you guys got to make your storylines fresh and interesting and things like that, and it's just not happening. So, we plan on, let's see, NXT is what day?
I think it's Wednesdays.
So
that would be tomorrow.
Maybe we'll watch NXT and do an NXT show for you. Maybe not. We'll see. We definitely will be doing something with the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble.
I would
over the weekend.
Yeah, I was gonna say. We're definitely gonna do something for the pay-per-view itself, but we may or may not do, like, our predictions on who we see winning or who we want to win the Royal Rumble. It's too many R's. The Royal Rumble for both women and men, and then all the championship matches and stuff. I know I would really love to do a prediction video.
Maybe we'll throw something together and do a live stream or something and see what happens, and people can come in and
I know the only other thing
questions.
that they have is NXT TakeOver, which is the day before the Royal Rumble. So maybe we'll watch that.
Yeah, maybe we'll do something.
So
so we'll adjust and adapt and fix things as we go along. Other than that, anything else? Did we forget anything?
Nope, I don't think so. So I think we will see you guys when we do our next live stream.
Maybe tomorrow?
Maybe tomorrow, maybe...
Definitely this weekend.
Definitely this weekend. We're watching the Royal Rumble, and we are live streaming it, and we're going to have a great time. So
we will see you then.